We're the builder. We're really good at that. We know how to dial that in. But when it comes to land prep, landowners have some options there on how they can handle certain things. And we just had to kind of recreate the system so that we could set more people up for success.
They always kind of say to me, where do you think the best place is? And my response to that is always, listen, this is your house. This is your dream. I want to make sure that you get what you want in the end. Graydon's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
What's up, man?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you on here, man. So what we have found out is that talking about the pre-construction phase of building is so important. And you can't talk about it enough. So we had so much, interest and questions and things coming in about all the pre-construction stuff and like sharing some of the stuff about how we are figuring this out over time, building and I think we've built in over 150 counties now, and all the different types of soil that we encounter across the Southeast with all these different things, and just building an expectation of the difference of building on your own land versus going and buying a new construction home in a planned community where that part's already been handled,
right?
And how that can either set yourself up for success or derail your entire plans.
Right.
And so I just wanted to talk about dirt, man. And you've been with us for a long time,
yeah, man.
And rode the roller coaster. And you're here in the upstate of South Carolina with us, but we've sent you everywhere, from the hills of Tennessee to the coast.
That's right.
And so I just want to take a little time and just dig in and get some more perspective on, what sets people up for success, what can they expect, and like just the overall process and why it's so dang important that you do it right the first time, and you don't try to cut corners to just get into a home, because it's going to cost you more retroactively than to do it right the first time.
Right.
But I guess before we jump in there, let's talk a little bit about your company. You got the coolest company name in the world. Share that.
Yeah, so my company is Heldapay Hauling and Grading. We're located right here in Woodruff, but like you said, man, we've been all over the place. Especially for you guys, we've been, I don't know, all the way up close to Tennessee, been all the way down to the coast in Charleston. So we've covered some land with you guys. Luckily, we've kind of got that reined back in. We're doing about an hour radius of Charlotte down to an hour radius of Columbia. But we specialize in land clearing, site development, site prep, all the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, so I want to hone in on this because you get painted as the bad guy and we get painted as the bad guy. And it comes from lack of expectations.
Right.
And so what we really focused on, I think, for the last 12 months specifically, and I mean, not so much now, it's kind of like working.
Right.
But, about 12 months ago, we got really, really aggressive with our pre-construction planning. And we just noticed a trend. We noticed a trend not just with our own company, but with other build-on-your-lot builders. Because we would have people come to us who were in contract to build with another builder, had everything, all lined up. Everything's great. They've got all the costs for construction and pretty much closing on loans. And then the contractor's got like a clause in the contract saying like, hey, we don't know what dirt's going to be. And they just put a placeholder in there, right? $10,000 or something. Like they just put a placeholder in their contract. They show up to construction, and we had it happen numerous times. We had 3 customers up in like Travelers Rest, Pumpkin Town, all down around that area where they were under contract to build. That builder rolls up on site, and this is a big national builder. I'm not going to say names because I'm not throwing shade. It was just evident to me that there was an issue with the process.
For sure.
They roll up, and they're like, oh, man, Bob and Mary, I got bad news. You got $70,000 worth of pre-construction work. And then they're going, $70,000. So we kind of changed the game. We'd always done a little bit of like pre-construction stuff and sending people out there, but it was almost retroactively because we're the builder. We're really good at that. We know how to dial that in. But when it comes to land prep, landowners have some options there on how they can handle certain things. And we just had to kind of recreate the system so that we could set more people up for success because we weren't having a tremendous amount of people who couldn't build due to land prep.
Right.
But maybe somewhere between 5 and 10% of people coming through. And when you're talking 400 or 500 clients a year, that's a pretty big number.
For sure.
And so we just reinvented the system. And so now when people onboard with us, one of the first steps is someone goes out and does that pre-site check. And then within a matter of days or at least a week, where someone like you is going out there to start bidding all the different phases of pre-construction,
Right.
during construction, and post-construction finish work to encompass all that so that we can get some hard costs and build that in on the front end so that before they get to contract, we kind of have that there. So if they're in a situation where they have a massive amount of clearing or a, long driveway, that's the number one killer of all dreams right there. Because we get somebody called, they're like, man, we just bought 50 acres. It's our whole dream's coming true, and we want to build it the very back of it.
Yep.
And,
Every time.
And then they're like, what do you? It's going to cost $100,000 to put my 2 mile long driveway in.
That's
And
right.
so we want to catch that early,
Right.
and we want to leverage people like you because you have expertise and you're really good at this.
Right.
To go out there and kind of see the stakes of where they're wanting to build, and you can make a phone call and say, hey, what kind of budget are we working with here? Because this is going to be expensive.
Right.
And then you can meet with homeowners and kind of like show them other options on their property. But for us, that's been a game-changing thing to where
Yeah,
we're
for
having
sure.
way more success rates and way less surprises all along the way so that people know going in. And I just kind of want to lean into that. So, like, talk through that, right? You roll up on, like, because you get sent stuff from us weekly.
Right.
And you roll up, and it's everything from a half-acre lot to, someone bought a whole municipality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
for sure.
And just kind of, like, you pull on the job. Walk through that process.
Yeah, so basically what we do is we go meet with the site manager, we meet with the client, and they always kind of say to me, hey, what do you think? Where do you think the best place is? And my response to that is always, listen, this is your house, this is your dream. I want to make sure that that you get what you want in the end. So we take their wants and needs into consideration, and then I kind of say, hey, if we're doing this, you're going to need a lot more dirt, as opposed to if we move it back 20 feet or move it forward 20 feet and to the left 20 feet, you're not going to need as much dirt. Budget is always a big thing. Like you said, we can do pretty much anything. We can build, we can build it however you want it. But they have to be able to say, okay, yeah, we're willing to build on a stem wall, or as opposed to a basement. Obviously you guys, your bread and butter is the mono slabs. Yep. And like you said, man, these people, they buy their land and they're jacked up about it, and they've got that emotional peak, and you just want to set the standard with them of, we can do this here, we can do it here. Here's some things to think about. Like you said, driveways, if they want it all the way in the back, stone ain't cheap. So that's all of that stuff is things that we have to play into, and look at going into it. That way, when they've closed on their loan, there's not this giant surprise of, hey, we're going to have 100 loads of dirt brought in here to build your pad up. So if we get that on the front end, it makes it a lot easier to deal with and make it a smooth process from loan closing all the way to, hey, here's your keys to your new home. So yeah, it's definitely an important part of the phase. And I tell people all the time, listen, I know you don't want to spend, $10, $15, $20,000 on dirt. I get it, but this is the foundation of your home. And this is the most important part of your build. So it's good that you guys make that a priority up front to start the process of figuring out, hey, what's it going to cost? What are some of the challenges we're going to look at, and some of the things we're going to face, and what's the easiest and most favorable thought process of overcoming those things?
Yeah, well, we don't even send them into design.
Yeah,
until
for sure.
We've had those conversations
Yeah.
now because, we know what they want.
Right.
And so we give you those parameters. But when you go out there and start figuring it out and we learn, hey, because there are times that we've had clients shelling out $100,000.
Oh, yeah.
For pre-construction. And maybe it's not all encompassing there.
Right.
But like there, there's so many different variables to this. If we know and we go to them and say, look, they're like, man, this is more than we thought it was going to be. Cool. How do we adjust so that we can get you something? Because you still got to have a house. Right. So how do we do that? So we can reverse engineer if we have all the details.
Right.
And that's the whole thing for us is like what we build better than anybody, I believe.
100%.
But I think there is an intentional effort now of I want you to have a better experience than anything. I know, regardless of what size house we build you, it's going to be built to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
We have really dialed in the process. Do we still make mistakes? Absolutely we do. But overall, when it comes to building a turnkey barndominium, we have a rock solid process of how we do it.
Right.
But just knowing those things up front, and especially in the rural areas, which is where we are. Like that's I had a friend of mine in California. We were talking through some stuff, and he was like, "You guys building the exurbs?" And I was like, "The exurbs?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't use that term?" And I'm like, "That's got to be some California talk."
Man.
And he's like, "You got like the city, then you got the suburbs, and then beyond that's the exurbs." And I was like, me and you can say exurbs, but people around here don't know what that means.
We call it sticks.
Yeah, we into sticks.
The boondocks.
Yeah, and so we roll up in the sticks. Like there's a lot of variables.
For sure.
You bought this piece of dirt, you want to build on it. That thing could be layered with hardwoods, and especially around here, just a pine grove.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to do something about that. You got to get rid of that stuff, and then you got to come in there and figure out if it was a pine grove, it's gonna have so much topsoil that you're gonna be doing some digging, regardless of the fact that we got the most beautiful red clay in the upstate South Carolina. God, it's so much better than everywhere else.
So easy to work with.
But if to get to that point, and then you got to put in a road, and just all the variables. Plus, hey, also we've got to dig a well, and we've got to solve that riddle, right? How far were they gonna have to dig to hit water? We don't know, right? We get lucky a lot of time around here with a bored well, right? You ain't got to go too far. You get into a water table and you're good,
right?
But sometimes you get into a drilled situation, and they give you a quote to drill, and it includes up to this many feet.
No, it ain't even close.
And they're like, we will hit water. We just don't know when.
Just don't know when.
And so you got that happening. And then simultaneous to that, you got DHEC planning that's putting in this septic situation. And they're kind of the mafia telling us where we're going to put stuff.
Yep.
And so even if we have a game plan and they come out and say, nope, you pert here, we got to change, call an audible and figure it out and piece all of this together and do it in a timely fashion. And, so I think the biggest thing, and it's to our favor now.
Right.
In the beginning, people thought we were insane. Like, I think so many people thought we were, scamming people because, the mindset is like, I just meet with you guys. I tell you I want to build this house. And then, next week, we start building this house.
Okay.
And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And we've always been a slower start in hopes of a faster finish. And onboarding is literally that process. And so, we had clients in the beginning, we were trying to piece all this together, and we've got more people than we ever dreamed would be in this thing. And we're trying to build a system, and it was horrible. And so in the first early years, we were building great houses, but man, our process, trying to figure out how to do this on a big level, it might, from the time you onboarded to the time you moved in, it might have been 2 years.
Right.
Now that's within a year.
Yeah.
And we put so much effort into the process and to the client experience that we want to move that up. But still, the goal is the day you onboard with us, our goal that everyone is working toward. Now, we don't always hit it, but the goal is within 100 days, we're ready to build.
Right.
And people are like, man, 100 days. Even other builders I talk to, and I get it. It's elements of scale, but when you build a geographical footprint the size that we build in,
right,
and you've got 500-600 clients coming through, you want to plan well, because you don't just have like a little mistake. And because of the way that we price, we don't do cost plus. So,
Mhm.
there's a lot of builders out there that don't really care. Like they're like, hey, we think we could do this for 400 grand, but you need to put a 10%, 20% contingency in there, because who knows, man, prices could go up, things could change. We might find something out there, and we don't do that.
And I mean, not everybody's got $20,000 because, hey, this happened on your land. And that's, like you said, kind of leaning into that is, that's why we do so much legwork up front to make sure that they don't run into those surprises. And your guys' process has gotten so much better. I started with you guys, I think like mid of 2022.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, go down there and grade this pad out. And I'm like, hey, absolutely, man, got you covered. And I think I did my first one like mid 2022, and got a call out of the blue from the guy you guys had doing your site prep then. And he was like, hey, I need you to come down here and grade this pad. And I think it was in Wagner. Never even heard of Wagner, and
that's one of those excerpts.
Yeah, man, yeah, absolutely. So I went down there, and I was like, the budget you gave me, this not going to work. And they're like, okay, well, what can we do? And I'm like, okay, well, this is what needs to be done, as opposed to now it's, I get a call from your site manager, and he's like, hey, meet me out here this date, this time with this client, and we figure everything out. Obviously I can't take a mini excavator to every site visit I go, because I'm going all over the place looking at these job sites, but I'm not afraid to grab a shovel and start digging and see what kind of dirt we got. And that way I can say, hey, listen, like you said, we're in a pine thicket. There's pine needles been falling on this for 20 years. We got 15 inches of topsoil we're going to have to strip off and then build back up and then go back to starting to get everything on grade. I take a transit on all of my site visits to make sure that I'm not just guessing, hey, it looks like it's about 2 feet off. No, I know exactly how much it is. I put it in, put my numbers in, and we figure out how much dirt we're going to have. Because like I said, man, you don't really have that option to go in and say, hey, we need another $30,000,
Well, you can attest to this, is because of the way we build, everything that we do is to client protection. Right. And look,
100%.
There's clients that lose their mind inside of it because there are issues, and like we become their liaison to solve that issue. But what we do is we protect the client by locking their price.
Right.
And then we have our contractors submit and lock in a price.
Right.
And so if you get it wrong,
oh yeah,
you're held
that's it.
Feet in the hell of fire of
that's
hell
it, man.
with us.
Yeah.
And so like you can attest to the fact that like if we do this planning and something was off beyond some caveats, which I want to talk about that as well, is like we don't know what we don't know. Once we start digging, we may uncover the boogeyman, and that's it's rare. Subterranean issues.
Yeah.
No one can control that.
Right.
And so there is some language in there of like, hey, there are chances that this could happen.
Right.
And then we got to come to the table and get creative.
Kind of drop back and punt.
But for the 95% of what we do, once we go through that process, we're holding you so heavily accountable to it,
right?
And the client's holding us accountable to it to where it works,
right?
So we put tons of pressure on. Hey, we've took a lot of time and due diligence to make sure that we've got this right.
Right.
We don't there's no room for error when it comes down to this on this scale. So that's for me. If I was, and here's the cool part about it is, you built with us.
Yeah.
Like your house is wrapping up. And
yeah, we getting close.
Getting close. And now how stressful.
Oh my gosh.
Building is. Just it doesn't matter who the builder is.
For sure.
It's the process.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's like, oh my God.
And I've worked for other custom builders, and I've seen the struggles that, I go in and they're like, hey, how much do you think this will cost? I'm like, okay, here's what I need to know. I mean, it's not just, hey, how much you think it'll cost. Like you said, you guys are building my house. Have we hit bumps in the road? Absolutely. But you guys have been able to fill those problems every time. Go back into your production office, which those guys are amazing. Go back in there and say, hey, here's what needs to be done. And it's done. And we're back rolling. Yep. But there's so many variables in dirt. I mean, it's not like electrical or plumbing where, hey, here's the plans. All right, let me X amount of feet of pipe, X amount of feet of wire, I need this many switches, this, that, and the third. With dirt, you never know. Once you put that bucket in the ground, you never know what you're gonna, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Graydon's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Yep. But it is, man. It can make it or break it. And I've done really good on some of y'all's jobs, and there's some of y'all's jobs where I'm like, oh my God, this thing's never going to end. But I mean, it's a learning process. Yeah. Like I said, I've been grading for you guys since 2022, and I have learned so much just from pushing dirt for you guys, because we are all over the place. We are, we were on the coast pushing dirt, which is 100% different than the red, beautiful clay that we have up here. Yeah. The mountains, it's a lot different. You never know. You might put that bucket in the ground and boom, you hit a rock shelf, and that's just not good. Yep. So the more legwork, the more footwork that we do and that you guys require us to do just makes everything more streamlined, and makes it easier for the client to just be a well-oiled machine from the time the bucket hits the ground to the time they say, hey, congratulations, here's your keys.
So this episode is sponsored by the Barndo Co. You can visit us online at thebarndoco.com and get started building your dream barndominium today. We specialize in build on your lot turnkey barndominium solutions. We have a whole gallery of plans that you can explore through. You can also go full custom route. You can get in touch with us through the website by filling out the contact us form, and one of our Barndo professionals will reach out to you, get your dream started today.
Well, look, here's the thing is we've grown, and everyone who works with us has grown.
100%.
And we celebrate that because, and the good side of it is once you've kind of scaled through and grown and you learn the system, it's real dang hard for someone else to come in and take work from you, because the learning curve is so big because we do it so different. Everybody that comes to work with us will be like, man, we work for 100 builders. Nobody makes us jump through this many hoops to build. And I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, like this is our process, and we will never deviate from it. But when you go out and do a quote, this is another thing, and I want to talk about this because if you're a client and you're considering building, even if you're not building with us, hold accountable the people that are doing the work for you to the same level and ask some of these questions. This whole thing is intended to make you as educated of a consumer as possible. We want you to know every single detail so that you can make the best decision on who's going to build for you.
Right.
Even if you onboard with us, the whole purpose of onboarding is for you to discover, are we the builder for you? And if not, we're going to make you so educated on what things cost and how things work to when you go talk to the builders that you want to build with, you can ask appropriate questions. I literally made this so that homeowners become more and more educated about this process, because there's so many people out here that swear that it's 50% the cost, and there's they can build it in 15 days and they can do all these amazing things. Man. It is absolute garbage to expect that. And so the whole purpose of me bringing people like you on here is to expose it and set proper expectations. But when we send you out to do a quote, you don't just go out there and say, here's what's going to cost. It's broke down into phases, right? And we talk through those phases. So kind of the first stage, and we'll go through this together because you do it every single day. Right. I know how it's supposed to be according to the process, but you guys show up on site. We're looking at it going, are we doing clearing, right? Which is we got to get trees off the property. Not everybody needs that.
Right.
But that's phase one. Here's land clearing costs. Second thing is we got to put in a construction entrance, right? And there's a huge misconception sometimes as to what that is. It's not finished driveway.
Well, it ain't crusher run either.
No. It's surge stone and it's a brute entrance for brute equipment to get in there, because concrete trucks are heavy and they're going to be coming in and out of that entrance. Then you got semi trucks coming in and dropping things. You got cranes coming out
pump
there.
trucks, yeah.
Everything's coming through there. And so when they put it in, a lot of people were like, "Man, that's a nice entrance there. That thing's gonna get destroyed.
It's gonna be a great base for what you want to do at the end of the project. Trust me."
That's right. So you've got your construction entrance costs. Then you've got your mass grade costs. You got to put in the pad for where we're building, which is where we're mucking and bringing in dirt and building up. That's the most intentional piece. And so if you're a client coming in with us, we're a little bit loose around the clearing and the things like that. We're going to provide you costs for that, but we get it. You got an uncle that can push some trees down, cool. We do not compromise when it comes to that pad base, making sure that thing's at the proper elevation with the proper things. And we've just learned, like, there are creative ways to get around some of those things financially, but in the end, customers are set up with issues, legacy issues, and we want to educate on that as much as we can. And it's more to the low country, right? Because you got septic systems that are 5 inches below the surface of the earth, and like, if you don't build that pad up, you ain't gravity feeding that system. You're putting grinders and pumps into your septic, and like, yeah, that works, and it's common, but it's not the best.
Right.
But if you're given that choice or $40,000 of dirt, sometimes you might take that choice.
Right.
But we're giving you the pad prep costs, that construction entrance cost, and then you're doing a mid grade during the construction, and we'll talk about that. And then you come back at the end and you're doing a finish grade, and then if we're going to do a finish drive with some crush and run or some asphalt millings or something like that, then we're quoting that in there as well. And so there's all these different pieces and variables that go into one big master grading cost. And so talk through that a little bit, because I want people to understand. And so, like, and again, the purpose of this is not to tell you so you just understand why we do what we do. It's to make you understand what you might be missing if you're building on your own, if you're building somewhere else in the country where we don't even build. But talk through those steps, right? What is a mid-grade?
So the mid-grade is after the initial grading's done, after the clearing's done, after, the pad is built, after the concrete is poured. What we're trying to get into right now is, as soon as the concrete's poured before the house goes vertical, we come in and do a mid-grade. And basically what that is, when they're digging the footers out or they're doing underslab, they're throwing dirt left and right on the most beautiful pad that we spent so much time and effort on building. And if your house is, you got a high side or a low side, just depending on how the water runs on the property, water is the biggest enemy. The mid-grade is designed so that once everything is poured and everything's, we're building here, we come in and we grade everything out, we smooth everything out, and make sure that, number one, the water is flowing away from your foundation. We don't want to wait on that. We don't want to, people are like, well, I don't understand why I got to have you come in halfway through just to grade again. Water is the biggest enemy to these homes. It's going to take the path of least resistance. And if you're not careful, that path of least resistance can go, to your foundation. And that's where we come in and basically make the water shed away from the home and make everything nice and smooth and pretty, so that everything is functional and we don't have to wait until the end and battle these huge water trenches, these huge washout areas, stuff like that.
Yep. So mid-grade happens, then the house gets built, we get everything in the dry, and then you're coming out and doing a finish grade.
Right.
So finish grade, explain that.
So finish grade is basically when we are getting ready to, or you guys, I always say we, because, I do so much work with Barndo. You guys are like family to me. But when we get to the point where we're like, hey, we're getting ready to start calling for a CO, I love doing those. I love doing final grades because I take so much pride myself into making sure that these homes look like I would want my home to look like. Spend the extra time. I tell my guys all the time on final grades, I'm not worried about time. Get out there and make it look like you would want your house to look like. Again, there's so much time between the secondary and the final where we got to revisit water issues. We're going in, smoothing everything out, getting it ready. If the homeowner wants to put sod in, if they want to, seed and straw everything, we strongly recommend that. A lot of times on final grades, if they've got downspouts and they're not going to push to where, the water's not going to push where it needs to be, we'll tell them, hey, listen, if it's in your budget, I would strongly recommend taking these downspouts, burying them, and daylighting them a little bit further away from the property. That way, all of that water that's coming down off of those metal roofs is hitting those gutters and going away from your house. But yeah, I mean, it's basically just getting you ready to move in and getting you ready to, everybody wants to do landscape. Everybody wants to make the house look beautiful. And that's our end goal on a final grade is going in and making sure that when they move in, everything's functional and everything's pretty.
Yep. Well, and it's important because, we've done landscaping for people. Right. Like we've had people that want to build it in and they want us to go out there and put, shrubs and mulch, or they want us to hydroseed, or they want us to sod, or, like we visited that. And there's some municipalities we build in where we ain't got no choice.
Yeah.
At least the 5 to 10 foot apron around the house. But we don't build that in. That's not like part of it. And here's the reason why we do it is if you build it in, and we will do it, but I'm super transparent. We've been this way since the very beginning of time, is we're going to hire a landscaper and we're going to mark it up, and then we're going to manage it because now we're responsible for it. You can handle that piece. That's a great piece to build in and like do on your own. If you want to do some DIY, do it there. Right. Post construction,
for sure.
Cory rolls up and does your finished grade. Get started
immediately.
Yeah, because all it takes is some heavy rain on some red clay or sand, and it washes. And so you want to control that. And so again, the more we've done and the better the process has gotten, and the more manageable it's become to do hundreds and hundreds of these things. It's the intentionality behind, hey, and it's on your schedule. Hey, finished grade's coming. This is when you should do it. And so now we see it. Like in the very beginning, our objective was to build houses. People wanted to build houses as cheap and as fast as possible. And so we'd go in and do that. And we would leave, and like you just got these big red clay fields out there and like this beautiful house in the middle of it. And then homeowners are just like, so I like just put some seed out. And we're like, yeah, I guess.
Sure.
So now it's a little more intentional, and when we set better expectations for that with the clients of what they should do. And so now, like when you see finished photos of our houses, you see about a 50-50 blend now, where people, like, by the time we've got to that stage, they've had sod put in, or they've put out pine needles, or they've mulched around, and they've done some things, because again, you want to really control around the house, if nothing else. Because again, if you're building on 10 acres, that's a lot of grass. So like, you want to do yourself a favor, and like at least around the house itself, let's control all that mud and water.
Right.
And so, again, it's just improving the process and knowing where you could get better. And when we figure out a way to get better, we just include it in the standard. And like people ask sometimes, like, hey, we were talking to you guys a year ago, and your cost per square foot was roughly here, now it's here. What happened? We're like, we added more things to our standard.
Exactly.
And we never have went back. Anytime something is included in the standard, right? In the beginning, we would insulate any way that people wanted to insulate. So we had like a cost savings version, a premium version, a middle of the road version. We don't do that anymore. We offer premium. It's a premium insulation package when you build a barndominium. That's all we do. Right? SFH, little more flexibility there, because it's not quite the same system. You're not battling the long-term issues you can have by building a barndominium. Right. But we do premium insulation. We will never, ever, ever compromise on that.
And you shouldn't.
Ever. Right? It's just not worth it, because we want you to have, like you said, if I were building it for myself, this is how I'd do it. And if that's a disqualification of cost, cool. Go talk to someone else who will offer you something that's not premium and build that, but that's not who we are.
But like you said, you're educating them and letting them know, hey, this is why we do this. That way, when they go to talk to, Jim Bob Builder, they, they're like, oh yeah, we can do batten insulation.
Yep.
Okay. Well, there's a huge difference between spray in and batten.
Yep.
You know, when you walk into the attic of my new house, or, you know, you walk in and it's blazing hot outside, and you walk in the house, and you're like, man, it's cool in here. And then you walk in the attic, and you're like, this isn't how an attic's supposed to feel.
Right.
You know, that's, you guys, there's a reason y'all do that, and best is the standard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we do that. Like we are not in it to be the cheapest.
Right.
That is not the goal. What we build by nature is cheaper than custom, like true custom home building.
Right.
And you know, and I tell people this all the time. Like I don't know that we, like, yeah, everybody knows us for Barndos, but if you really break it down, what we've done over the last few years to build this many fully custom homes in this many different areas, it's insanity.
It is.
It's insanity. And everyone who comes in, we do not, like, no one builds with us unless it's SFH. And even on SFH, it's semi-custom because they're still going in and picking out
Right.
cabinets and countertops and floor colors and
Right.
paints and all these different things to make it their own.
Their own.
But when it comes to Barndo, it is so custom. Every single thing that we build is custom built and custom designed for every single client that comes through. And, you know, like our project managers laugh all the time because they'll say, you know, I'll be like, man, you built 4 Aspens. He's like, yeah, man, but we need to change the names because, like, none of them are the same. He's like, there ain't nothing about them the same. Like, they look kind of the same, but they're
Right.
not the same. And so, you know, it's just the custom details, you know. And if someone says, hey, man, we had this idea about doing this, you know, when it comes to a porch, you know, like, we talked to this other builder. He said that he could build porches. Man, he's only charging this per square foot for porches. I'm like, look at the picture of his porch.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. I'm not casting shade.
No.
That's great. I'm friends with all these guys.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have enemies in this industry.
Right.
Maybe 1 or 2 guys.
Nah.
And that's just because they're taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
But overall, that's great. Like, if that's what you want, you should let them build your house.
Right.
Because that's not what we're going to do.
Right.
We will not build that. And that it's just setting a standard that, hey, like, if you build with us, you can rest assured one thing. You may have a hiccup in your process. You might even encounter somebody you don't like. But when you move in, you will have the best version of that home that you could possibly have. And that's what we rest our laurels on. Like, we're in the business to make people's dreams come true. We said we want to reclaim the American dream. We want to build with quality first. And look, I'm not casting shade on track home building. These guys are solving a massive problem in the United States of America, and that is we have a giant housing crisis. We are so far behind.
Yep.
And even up here where we're at, like, the Southeast is booming. Greenville, South Carolina is on fire, and the surrounding areas, the whole state of South
Woodruff's
Carolina.
on fire.
But they're helping the problem.
Right.
But what they're building is not the same as what used to be built.
Right.
And, you know, like, I currently live in a house that was built in 1972. And when I went and looked at that house when I moved back to South Carolina from Utah, I was crawling around the attic, and it's not even like a house. Like, it's not even like I was like, man, that house is the most gorgeous house. But it was big enough for my family. And when I went and did the inspection, I met with the inspector out there and crawled around that attic. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, man, I could land an Apache helicopter on top of this house. It is built with all true frame lumber. Like, it is built. This is how it should be.
Right.
There was no corner cut in this construction. I love it. I
Right.
love that. And so when we started this company, like, we err on the side of, well, I say this, when we started, we were just kind of doing what everybody else was doing. And from there to today, we've changed everything to where we have other builders going like, why do y'all do that? Like, why do y'all do all that vertical infill framing? And again, homeowner, like, you might not care, right? But other builders look at us and go, are you crazy? Mike Moon, the pole barn guru, he's like, you ain't got to do it that way. I said, I know we don't have to, but that's the way we
Best
do it.
is the standard.
And that's it. Best is the standard. And it is absolutely, I agree with you, it's overkill.
Yeah.
It's overkill. It's overkill for framing. It's overkill for everything else. But let me tell you what it does do. It allows me to speak the language of the trades. And when Bob and Mary move in their home that we built and they go to hang pictures on the wall, they're going to find a stud, right? When the electrical outlets are hung, they're going to be able to hang them the way they would in any other custom home.
Right.
They don't have to find that girt that's 2 foot on center and somewhere in the wall. And, like, you know, you're out, like, you're like, hey, I need an outlet here. And then they got to go find it and block it. And, No, like we build this like a residential house. We do not build anything else. And I think that's the other piece of it is like, there's a lot of guys out here that are doing it. I mean, I'm friends with all these guys and they build beautiful stuff. They don't build the way we build, and that's okay. Not everybody can. But we also don't build other stuff. Like we don't. I don't build hay barns.
Right.
I don't build horse barns. I don't build I don't build any of that stuff. We don't even do shells anymore because we started doing shells. We built like 20 of them. We're like, oh, man, we're setting these people up for failure because they're like, they got us to do that part, and then they're going to GC the interiors.
You're on your own.
And I was like, I don't feel confident in this because that's not why I'm doing it. I'm not here to do something that's as economical as possible. My goal, if you buy a home with me when you move in, I want you to be able to say I could live here and my family could be here for the next 100 years. And this thing's going to stand the test of time, and it's going to be a great home, and we can do that affordably. And that is the thing. Like if you compare apples to apples, the way we build, the way we over engineer every single thing we do, you cannot find a home in this price range with this level of finish. And that's why yes, it's economical, but it depends on what you're comparing it to. And the process now, like the product, we got that thing dialed in.
Right.
Now we've been focused on nothing but the process and working with guys like you to come in and talk dirt and explain it to people so they know and like educate them. And like, you don't have to just sit on this. If you're building in the upstate South Carolina, is a 99% chance this man or his team is going to be on your site in the very early days, talking you through this and explaining what he's got to remove and why he's got to bring this in and make you feel good about it. And you're not going to feel good paying money for something that you can't see. But you're going to know why you did it.
Right.
And the whole game there is to set you up for success, because we have had horror stories with people where we're trying to solve their problem, which is we got to get in this house and we only got this much money. And if I could go back and redo them, I would have said, let's build a slightly smaller house and let's do all these extra things.
Right.
Because long term, this is going to be an issue for you. And some people can handle that and they can attack that and get it fixed. But some people, I think, tell you like, yeah, we'll take care of that. And I know long term you're not going to take care of that.
Right.
And so, that it is what it is. But it all boils down to process, and we spend a lot of time educating you guys on what we want, and you guys go out there and build a system around it to where you can educate clients on why we do what we do.
Right.
Yeah. So other than that, man, like what else? What you want to throw out here into the atmosphere?
Oh man, I could sit here and talk dirt all day long, deleting trees and pushing dirt. Man, I could talk all day long. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you've done a lot of stuff for our clients, but you've done a lot of stuff for us on like in-house builds,
Right?
Stuff like that. And like I've learned a whole lot about it as well. We bought some lots and we need to go out there and clear them. And I'm like, man, these things are like perfectly flat, perfect rectangle lots. Like these ain't gonna cost nothing to do. And we go out there and we start messing with them, and we're like, oh man,
Yeah. Not exactly flat, TJ.
Yeah, yeah, or not exactly the best soil,
Right.
or River Bend specifically.
For sure.
That first lot where the old farm entrance came
Yep.
in my mind, look, I own the building company. In my mind, I'm like, this one will need the most work, but like, none of these are going to be crazy. And when I came out there, when you guys were hogging that piece out, and where that road cut through, and it was 7 foot high,
Huge drop.
and I was like, oh my God. Like, it caught me completely.
What are they doing?
It caught me completely off guard. I was like, how in the world is that like that? But it just goes to show, like, your eyes will deceive you.
Oh, 100%.
And there's a ton of value in it. And I'll say this, if you're shopping for land and you're considering building with us, go ahead and onboard.
For sure.
Do it. So when you're a realtor and you go and y'all find this piece of dirt and you do your due diligence, you can use your site visit during your due diligence period, and we could come out there and start getting some of this preliminaries so you can determine, hey, is this as good of a deal as I thought it was? And if not, you can get out of that deal
Right.
and keep looking for land. And the next time you find land, I think we charge $250 to send these guys back out
Right.
there again and do it again.
Right.
And like it's the cheapest insurance that, hey,
for sure.
I'm getting something that I'm not going to have surprises with.
Yeah, you don't have a realtor or somebody that's going to build a house saying this is perfect, and not saying, gosh, I was a realtor. I sold for a tract home builder for 2 years. So, I know, we want to make that sale, but at the same time, I've had a lot of your sales agents call me and say, hey, I've got these people from out of town, or I've got these people, that are in town, and they're looking at buying this piece of property. Will you go out there and check it out with them? Absolutely, because there's nothing worse than telling somebody that's bought a piece of land when you go out there, like, this is going to be an astronomical amount of money because they didn't see this, or they didn't notice this part of the land. And I've gone out and again, if you're in the market to buy land, if you're thinking about buying land, you got a piece of land you're looking at, it's always good to have somebody that can be out there and say, hey, listen, there's no way we can do a mono slab here. It's going to have to be a basement, and huge amount of money.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to end with this, because here's the thing. Regardless of where your land is and regardless of what you're trying to do, if Cory comes out there and your only question is, can we build here? He's going to tell you yes. It's just a matter of, can you afford what he's going to do?
Right.
And I've got a funny story that I wasn't even a part of, but I've heard it about the top of the mountain.
Oh my God.
And
we'll end here.
And Ross said, I went out there and Cory set up and he's got this plan to grade, do all this stuff. He said, and Ross is driving a Raptor, an F-150 Raptor 4x4, and he goes, my truck won't make it to the top. How Cory even drug a trailer and got equipment to this location, and the homeowner's like, we'll pay for it. And Ross was like, we're not building up here. So, yeah, Cory will get it done.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We'll figure it out.
I'll tell you right now.
Whether you want to pay for it or not.
We would have a helicopter to get materials up there, but he would have had it graded. So,
Yep.
So don't be discouraged. Like I say, money solves a lot of problems. But we just want to set you up for success. We want you to have all the education you can possibly have, and we want you to know the importance of dirt. That's why we keep talking about it.
Yep.
Because it's out of my control. It's out of your control. And we have to have good guys like this, Heldapay, to come in and just make things happen and turn chicken crap into chicken salad, so we can come in and build what we want to build. But dude, I love that you came on the show. I appreciate
you guys
everything
having
you do
me.
for us. We could sit here and talk for another 2 hours
For sure.
about everything under the sun. But anyway, man, appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.